Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be with you shortly. We're just waiting for a few more guests to arrive. Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more guests to arrive, and we'll be with you shortly. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Tea at 3 on Wednesdays. Today, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving in New York, one of my favorite trips. And I have to do a few housekeeping items first. Remember that this session is being recorded, so if you've signed up and weren't able to attend, it will be sent to you in a day or so that you can listen at your leisure. And it'll also be sent to everyone that is listening today, so you can forward it on to your friends that may want to join you on this great trip. The other thing is those that were with us last time at Tea at 3 on Wednesday, we mentioned that you are being entered in a contest for attending today's webinar, and you can win a travel voucher for $500 towards any of our great vacations in the coming year. So once again, we have one more Tea at 3 on Wednesdays coming up later in the month. So just attending or registering, I should say, registering and attending, you will be entered in for the draw for that $500 travel voucher. So now I'm going to turn it over to one of our wonderful tour managers that's been with us even before me when she started at the company, and has been in retirement back working as a full-time tour director. And one of her favorite trips she's going to talk about today is New York. She usually talks about Newfoundland and Labrador, but today it's going to be Thanksgiving in New York City. So Karen, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Richard. And gosh, don't make us sound too old, but note that Richard is older. Welcome to Tea at 3 on Wednesdays. And yet, as Richard said, today is Thanksgiving in New York. It is one of my most absolute favorite tours once we leave Atlantic Canada. And so Thanksgiving, everything's decorated for Christmas. So let's get ready and hop on the motor coach and start making our way. So the tour departs out of Halifax. So if you're needing to fly in, arrangements can be made to get you into Halifax. The group will start from our capital city and downtown view of Halifax, and we do pickups along the way. So no matter where you are in Nova Scotia, when you're calling in to book your trip, arrangements can be made for pre-nights to get you either into the city or routes along the way.
I must say, Karen, sorry for interjecting there, but I said there's already some people flying in from other parts of Canada that joined you in Newfoundland and want to join you again on this New York trip. So that's exciting from our end. They're kind of come here to actually go to New York with Karen.
And we were traveling through Newfoundland when this all came up. So as I said, we're leaving out of Halifax and we come in through New Brunswick. So anybody in Prince Edward Island, absolutely make your way into Moncton and we'll do pickups there. And then as we're going through New Brunswick, depending on the border that we'll cross, will depend on where people are booking the trip. So if the majority are coming in through St. John, then that's where we'll stop will be, and we'll head through St. Steve and Calais. Or if through Fredericton, we can go up through Woodstock and in through Holton. So here's
one of the other things there, you talked about the pickups, but Atlantic Tours provides one will either pick you up en route, but if you're outside of the pickup spot at a certain number of kilometers, we'll provide you with the transfer to that pickup spot, or either a pre-night or a post-night. So, that's a great option to mention when they call in to make their reservation, is that we've tried to make your life as flexible as possible. So many people will drive in for the pre-night and will arrange for the parking for their vehicle. And that way that when they get back from the trip, they can just jump in their vehicle and go home.
Thank you for sharing that, Richard, because it's key in these trips that just because we're based out of Halifax doesn't mean you have to be from Halifax to travel. And we're very flexible in picking you up along the way. So as we're coming along, we out in Nova Scotia into New Brunswick, we'll do pickups where people are joining our tours, make coffee break stops and lunch stops, and then we'll head to the border crossing. We'll do a stop at duty free, so pick up any supplies you might need. And then this will bring us into Maine. And Maine is our first overnight. We'll be staying in Bangor, We'll be at the Quality Hotel, and dinner will be on your own that night, but within walking distance of the Quality, there's restaurants, and I'll have you all briefed on that, where you can get a bite to eat. And, speaking of food, the next morning, breakfast is included. On this tour, every breakfast is included, and we actually have 2 included dinners as well. So first night into Bangor, Maine. The next morning, we'll be getting up, have the luggage loaded, and our destination is New York. So we have a full driving day that day because we have our eye on the prize, and that is getting to Manhattan, to New York City. So along the way, we'll be coming through Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, into New York, and then Manhattan specifically. So that day is my day for entertaining you and giving you information. I already have all the maps in hand so that we can give you the lay of the land for when you get to New York City, because our destination, we're there for 4 nights. We're on 39th Street, just south of Times Square. Here's a great image of Times Square. This is walking distance from our hotel. We're at 39 and 8, and Times Square, you'll go up 4 blocks, you'll turn left for another 2 blocks, and here you are. So when we arrive, as I said, you'll have maps in everybody's hands and give you the lay of the land, point out some places to get a bite to eat for dinner. And some people have just had a long day of travel and want to nestle in their room that night, and that's fine because we're there for 4 nights. Others like to hit the ground running, get up to Times Square. Some people in the past have made their way directly to Macy's. And I bring that up right out of the gate because what's happening this week, of course, is the lead up to American Thanksgiving and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So performers and entertainers are already in New York City. And right outside of Macy's is where this parade, the iconic part of the parade that's recorded every year, takes place. So the groups are practicing, the bands are practicing, the singers who are brought in are out in front of Macy's. So people have gone a little stargazing that first night and have seen some spectacular views. So first night.
And there's for my first time to Times Square, like yours probably, it's unbelievable. It's one of those places that you just can't believe the size of these screens and the amount of light. It's like daylight at midnight, and the amount of people. It's just something incredible. It's just something we're not used to at all, coming from small towns in Atlantic Canada. So I always say it's just one of those things. You've seen so many movies, and how many people have watched the New Year's Eve celebration held in Times Square. So to actually be standing here, but pictures never do it justice on how big and how busy and how much is going on. It's just incredible.
New York, New York, the city that never sleeps, and that is a fact. So after your first night, the next morning, and I'm really excited that we do this, we go out on a guided city tour, showing you one image of Central Park. So we'll have our breakfast at the hotel. We'll have a professional local guide join us, and we're going to go off on about a 3.5-hour guided city tour of New York. And the key to this is that afternoon, you have a full free afternoon. So between what we've chatted about on the coach the day before, and then with our local guide the next morning, you'll get the lay of the land, make some decisions on what you might like to or how you'd like to use that time in the afternoon. Here's the carriages adjacent to Central Park. It's something that if you're going to book something like that, maybe you'd like to do that ahead of time. And when you're calling into the office to book the trip, Peggy from Reservations has been on the trip. She's done the research on the carriages at Central Park. So mention that to her and she'll be able to help you coordinate that ahead of time. Here's an image of Brooklyn Bridge, and I'm going to show this image again later in the slideshow, and I'll kind of circle back to that. But on our guided city tour, we'll be on the motor coach, pretty much looking from the Times Square going south down to Lower Manhattan. We'll take a jaunt over to Central Park so you can see the distance, but we'll focus on the lower part of Manhattan. Saks Fifth Avenue and Macy's, this entire tour is around Thanksgiving in New York. And so what's happening? They're getting ready for Christmas. These are lights in the evening. So what we're going to see on our tour through the day, of course, not lit up, but coming back in the evening. And all of these window displays, This is something that gets unveiled this week while we're there. They're getting ready for the Thanksgiving Day parade. So when we arrive and drive into the city Monday night, all of these windows might be covered as they're unveiling them on Tuesday. And the same with the Macy's Christmas window displays. Here's another image of Times Square, some of the Broadway musicals that have taken place in New York City. And of course, it's not New York City unless you've had a hot dog or something from one of the street vendors. And the entire city, as I keep saying, is decorated for the season. This tour is an amazing launch to get you into the Christmas spirit. Here's Rockefeller Plaza. And this, of course, from we see in the movie Home Alone in New York. That's the image where Macaulay Culkin is looking for his mom at the end. Here's Rockefeller Plaza. And what I want to point out, two things here, of course, is the skating rink. But if you look to the back, there's a Christmas tree that's all engulfed in scaffolding. And this is the Rockefeller tree that gets unveiled the week after we've been there. That's a whole completely different ceremony. And actually, by the time we're there for their 4 nights, that scaffolding usually is all the way down. If you look to the very top of the tree, it's an enormous crystal ornament, the tree topper. So although we won't see it lit up and decorated, we'll see the process of them putting the tree up. And here's Rockefeller Plaza. You can rent skates and go for a skate. Here's an image from the top of Rockefeller Plaza. The tree is over to the left-hand side in this image, in behind all of the flags. Of course, our Atlantic Tours coach, we're making our way down towards the lower part of Manhattan. We'll take a drive by the American Stock Exchange. And here's a destination that we will definitely be getting off of the coach with our local guide. And this is One World Trade Center. Our local guide will take us on a walking tour past the new builds and the new construction that are there. But our ultimate destination is to the memorial. And this would be the site of where one of the towers, they never built over where the towers were. And here's the memorial that they put in place. And all around the perimeter of it are people's names. And those are people who lost their lives during this tragedy. And I like to point out the rose that's in this particular name. And that's significant that there's a committee that looks after this memorial. And on that person's birthday, a white rose will be put within their name. And we'll learn all about this with our local city guide that day. Staten Island Ferry through the southern part of Manhattan. And I'm going to circle back to that particular ferry later on in the slideshow as well. Great image of the Statue of Liberty. So here's Macy's, and this is up on 34th Street. Once again, our tour will take us back up towards 34th Street and back over to 39th Street, where we'll then get dropped off at our hotel, and you have a completely free afternoon. Now, this is Macy's. I want to point out the turkey that's on the side of Macy's, because I'm going to come back to pointing that out in another slide as we come down a little further. So your afternoon, get off to one of the museums or off to Central Park. If you want to spend more time in Lower Manhattan, there are taxis, there are subways, there's lots of ways to get around the city. And where our hotel is located, if you want to get out on foot, you're within walking distance back to Macy's, walking distance to Times Square. If you're a big walker, you're walking distance back to Central Park. Anything you want to do for your free time on Tuesday, the museums are open. You have free time on Thursday. However, that's American Thanksgiving, and the museums will be closed and Broadway musicals will be closed on the Thursday. So on that Tuesday afternoon is time to get to the museums if that's of interest to you. And of course, shopping. Later that afternoon, about 4:30, we're all going to gather at the hotel, get on the coach, and we'll head off to Hurley's Saloon for dinner. This is an included dinner, and this is our big night out. We're heading out to dinner and the theater. We have tickets to a Broadway musical. Don't know which one we might be getting yet. However, here's a couple that we have seen in the past, but this is Broadway in New York. Whatever might get booked, it's Broadway in New York, and it is spectacular. I've been to both see Wicked and Come From Away, and you really can't go wrong. I might have heard buzzings that Come From Away has been requested, but stay tuned on that. That'll be a big announcement when our Broadway musical does get booked. Now, the next morning, we'll gather on the coach and we'll make our way to the Empire State Building. I'll have the tickets in hand, and what our plan is that morning, we'll come to the Empire State Building. When I was there in 2019, they had a beautiful new exhibit right on the main level, so we'll get in through the exhibit on the elevator that will take us up to the 80th floor. There's another large exhibit area and beautiful panoramic views, but we get on another elevator to take us up to floor 86. And here are some of the spectacular views from outside of the Empire State Building. As you're looking from this image, the Hudson River's on your right-hand side, the East River's on your left-hand side. And if you look right to the end, you can see the one plaza at the very end, and just to the right on one of those islands, well, here's the Statue of Liberty. So on a clear day, you have magnificent views. Even on an overcast days, from the top of this building is spectacular. Now our tickets take us up to floor 86. Some people like to do a little bit more. There's an added cost if you wanted to get on yet another elevator to take you up to 102, but we can chat about that when we're there. What I like to do with our Empire State Building Day is all go together. So we have a booked time in the morning, but then you spend as much time there or as little time as you like. Use your ticket however you would like to use it. And I'll plan for us to meet back at the hotel after lunch that day. So if you want to spend the entire morning at the Empire State Building, by all means do that. And this is an image I want to point out. Remember that turkey I showed you on the side of Macy's? Well, if you look down right in the middle, you'll see a green portion. So the green is painted in the street. That turkey is just to the right-hand side of that. This is significant for the parade on Thursday. This green painted section on the street, that's where you see every single performer when you're watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade at home on the television. So here's an image from the top of the Empire State Building looking down at Macy's. That whole block is the Macy's department store. So from the Empire State Building, go off, do some shopping, do some touring around, grab a bite to eat for lunch. We'll meet back at the hotel. And our afternoon, we are heading off to Radio City Music Hall. We have tickets for a backstage tour. So we get in, we'll have a guided tour throughout the facility to see this magnificent structure in downtown New York. Has a capacity for 6,000 people. Many concerts and comedians and shows have been put on. However, the show that we will be taking in later that evening is one of the basis or the reason for Radio City Music Hall. So our tour will take us through some of the grand sections. Here's the lobby. Look at that incredible chandelier, a Christmas tree hanging in the lobby of Radio City Music Hall. And for those of you who will be traveling with me, that's an iconic place where we will meet after we see the Christmas Spectacular that night. So you'll get a good view of it on our guided tour. And on our tour, you'll get to meet a rockette. So after the guided tour, you have some free time. You can go off, do some more walking about, head some shopping, head back to Times Square, grab a bite to eat for supper, and we'll regroup again at the hotel, get on the motor coach, and we'll have an evening experience at Radio City Music Hall. We have tickets to the Christmas Spectacular, and it's called Spectacular for a reason. Look, there's Richard on the back of the Atlantic Tourist coach. He follows us everywhere we go. Here is a theater with some of the lighting. So previous slide was an empty theater with none of the lights turned on. The images that are put all around the circular roof. And of course, here's the orchestra down on the stage. And here are the iconic Rockettes. This is an absolutely amazing show. I've experienced it 3 times and can't wait to get back to it. This puts you in the Christmas spirit. And the Christmas Spectacular, it runs from November right until the 1st of January. And for New Yorkers, this is their Christmas tradition. You will see people in tuxedos and ball gowns going, and you'll see people in jeans and sweatpants going. You see every spectrum, but the city comes together to see this amazing show. So that's our up to Wednesday. So now Thursday, it is American Thanksgiving, and it's the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I'm sure something that everybody has watched at one point on the television, but now if parade going is your thing, this is the parade of all parades. Where we're situated at the Holiday Inn at 8th and 39th, the parade goes up 6th, so it's really 4 blocks walking north to get onto the parade route. This particular year, I went from 39 all the way over to 51. You can see Radio City Music Hall in behind us. I found a great spot. However, if you're wanting to get out to the parade, I can point you in the right direction. Of course, there's people sometimes sitting out in their lawn chairs at 3 o'clock in the morning to get their spot, but it's parade day. However, it's a free day for everybody. So for some people just prefer to watch the parade on TV in their hotel room. That's great. Some people like to get out and experience the parade, or there's lots of other things you can do throughout the day. So here's, oh, look, Diana Ross, she was on the float that particular year. And Christmas parade, here comes Santa, and look at this shot. He was waving directly at me when I took that shot. Santa knew I was there. So what else can you do? You can get out to the parade because it's in the morning and it ends at Macy's. Some people like to get over to Macy's and see it as it's coming around where all the performances are going. Some like to see it up at Central Park where it starts. And once the parade's over, now the stores aren't open this day until later in the afternoon. Macy's and Saks, they'll all open in the evening. Times Square, everything's open. The museums are closed that day, Broadway's closed that day. However, places like Bryant Park, this is up on 7th Avenue within walking distance from the hotel. You can see another Christmas tree there. Another ice skating rink. I pointed out Rockefeller Plaza earlier. A little bit more expensive to go to Rockefeller Plaza for the admission and renting of the skates. Bryant Park, you rent your skates and admission onto the ice is free. So it's a really neat vendor area. You can see all of the vendors and outside tables. You can get some Christmas shopping done, get some hot chocolate and other things that day. I'm circling back to Brooklyn Bridge with taking a cab over, or if you're adventuresome, you can walk over to Brooklyn Bridge and then walk directly across the bridge and back, or go halfway and back, to put that as something to do on parade day. Staten Island Ferry. The Staten Island Ferry runs on American Thanksgiving and it's free. So if you want the best view of Liberty Island and the Statue of Liberty that costs you nothing, except perhaps a subway ride or a taxi ride to get on the Staten Island Ferry, here's something to put on your list for that day. It's both Brooklyn Bridge and Staten Island ferries are on my list for the next trip. So after our full day of touring around, we're going to regroup back at the hotel and we're going to go out for a traditional American Thanksgiving dinner. This is an included meal, so we'll meet at the hotel. The restaurant that we have requested is within walking distance. So we'll have a meal together, once again, an included meal. And then this is your last night in Manhattan. So what are you going to do? Well, we're within walking distance of Times Square. You might want to go up and do a little bit more shopping or head back over to Macy's. And then the next morning, we're going to load up the coach. We're going to make our departure, driving past Central Park and out of the city and back out into the highway. First state we're going to come into is Connecticut. Now that Friday is Black Friday. So will be any shopping along the way? Well, we need to stop for comfort stops and for lunch stops. So I do have a destination that will stop in Connecticut. So any Black Friday shoppers, you might have a little bit of time to get out and do that. We'll continue heading north. We'll come into Massachusetts. Our destination on the Friday for a little bit of sightseeing around is Boston, Massachusetts. And this is Quincy Market, fully decorated for Christmas again. This is the Christmas tree at Quincy Market. All of these shops and vendors, right-hand side and left-hand side, there's 3 different kind of shopping areas, and I'll have maps for you in hand and have you all briefed about that. Get out and do a little shopping, stretch your legs. You can get down to the Boston waterfront, and we'll spend a little bit of time here. From Boston, we'll continue heading northward and we'll come up into New Hampshire. Our destination is Portsmouth, New Hampshire on the Friday evening. We'll be at the Best Western. There's a diner at the hotel, grab a bite to eat for the evening and then nestle in. We're coming back into, of course, larger hotel rooms. We've just been in Manhattan for 4 nights. Well, property and real estate is kind of at a premium in New York. So the hotel rooms are very small. They have everything we need. But now we're back into grander hotel rooms at the Best Western. And the next day, our destination, it's not a long driving day. So if the weather's looking great for us the next day, we're going to come into Maine. We'll make a stop into the iconic town of Kittery, which also will be decorated for Christmas. And if you're not a shopper, that's okay. This is not a shopping tour. There are lots of places to walk and sightsee around. We'll continue north, we'll make a stop in Freeport. And once again, these beautiful little towns in kind of the older parts of Maine, and of course the iconic boot of LL Bean in Freeport. Continue north, our destination is Bangor, Well, look who lives in Bangor. So like, this isn't where we're staying, so don't look at which corner your room might be in, but look at Stephen King's house and the iconic wrought iron fences with the bats and the cobwebs. So we'll make our way into Maine that night. We'll be at the Country Inn in Bangor, walking distance to some restaurants. I'll have you well versed in that, where to grab a bite to eat that night. And then Sunday morning, we're literally 1 week later, we depart on a Sunday, we make our way back to the Canadian-US border. Sunday morning, we'll have a reservation for our crossing time, which Atlantic Tours is always very meticulous about doing. They expect us at the border, I have confirmed that. We'll go through all of our declaration forms, back into New Brunswick, doing the drop-offs. Those of you who got on anywhere in New Brunswick, guess what? We'll take you back to the same place we picked you up. We'll come back in and cross the border from New Brunswick into Nova Scotia as we start making our way home, bidding our farewells along the way. And this next slide gives you a summary of our day 1 to day 8, the meals that are included, the sightseeing that's included. It is just an amazing tour. It's the way to see and do New York. You don't worry about the driving. You don't worry about booking tickets. You don't worry about parking the motor coach. That's a big thing about people, on their own going to New York, is just finding a place to park. So Atlantic Tours, worry-free vacations, absolutely. Let me worry about everything. Let our planners and our team here in the office get all the reservations made for us and come and experience just an amazing tour. And as we flip to the last screen, and this is a time to give it back over to Richard, and I'll say thank you for letting me chat, Richard. Back over to you about some upcoming tours and river cruising that Richard will be looking at.
Well, thank you, Karen. That's an amazing, amazing presentation of our great New York Thanksgiving Day parade trip. And, after 2 years of being absent from it, 2 years of our lives that disappeared pretty quickly. The pent-up demand, I suspect, is going to be very strong for the November cruise for 2022. People have already been booking it, and we still have the reduced deposit on for those that are listening today. All you need to pay is $50 to secure your seat, and then you won't have a final payment due until 45 days before we go. So basically, that's all you need. Put down $50. Your seat is held, and those that are concerned about making deposits, Atlantic Tours has always during COVID respected the challenges that were faced, and so one of the things was to reduce our deposit to get people booking. And throughout the whole pandemic, we've always refunded everyone their deposit when we couldn't travel, and nothing will change in the future. If things go awry and we can't go again, then we'll certainly do that. I think we're on the right side of things now. So by certainly November of 22, we should be all set to go. So keep that in mind. And that not only New York, it's any of our trips operated by Atlantic Tours have the reduced deposit. And we've even had reduced deposits on some of our cruises and those kind of things. And speaking about cruises, our next Tea at 3 on Wednesday is November 24th. That's our last one for this year. And it's going to be with Alma Waterways, my great friend Sandra. And we're going to be talking about the iconic Christmas markets on the Danube. And Christmas markets is one of those programs that is on a lot of people's bucket list. And so, having already done the Danube a couple times myself, and you've done the Danube, Karen, and great cruise. This one will be the time of the year when those Christmas markets are in operation. So, and this is a 2023 November trip. So we're launching it early, getting it out there and get people signing up for that. But that would be November of 2023, and our presentation is November 24th. So remember, if you register and come and listen to us on the 24th, and even if you can't come and listen to us at 3 p.m. for our presentation, you'll be entered in our draw because you'll get the recording for the $500 travel voucher, which would come in useful towards your future vacation with Atlantic Tours. But right now, a lot of people have been asking about brochures. We're not producing a brochure this year. Once again, that's sort of a residual of COVID, not spending the money on a physical brochure. Our website is the most up to date. So once again, you visit our website and you'll get a great opportunity to see everything that we're offering through 22 and 23. We have some really great trips. One of the ones that stand out to me that I'll be hosting is the Ireland and Scotland trip in the spring of 2023. So once again, that would be one of those trips where you pay $50 and hold your spot. But have a look at our website. Thank you, Karen, for a wonderful presentation as always, and your energy is contagious, and you do an amazing job, and your comments are, you can't get better. You walk on water on every trip that you host. So thank you again for that, and if we'll check here to see if we have any questions. I think I forgot to mention to type them in the chat box or the question and answer box, and I'm not seeing anything in there. So I guess that means you covered everything that people need to know. So call Peggy in reservations, put your name down, and we look forward to traveling soon. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.